There are three ways that you can fail as a poultry farmer. One of the factors that can lead you to failing as a poultry farmer is lack of enough capital so that you can be able to feed your chicken or be able to buy medication for your chicken when they are sick. The second way of how you can be able to fail as a poultry farmer is when you do something known as mismanagement on your poultry farm, whereby you are not able to manage your poultry farm properly. As you can see, things are going on very well. So, how will you not be able to manage your poultry farm properly? These are some of the factors that can lead to that. First of all, if you are unable to have good staff that can be able to manage your chicken properly. And what do I mean by good staff? Staff is the people that are the ones that are doing the hard work on the poultry farm. For example, on the giving of the feed to the chicken, that can be one thing. The second thing can be by giving water to the chicken, watering the chicken. Thirdly can be vaccinating the chicken. Fourth can be the removing of the wood shavings from the floor when they get wet. Those are some of the factors that the staff on a poultry farm should do. And what else can lead you to fail as a poultry farmer? And this is really what happened on my farm. So guys, before we continue with this video, this is a very long video. It is around 29 to 30 minutes. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel so that you can know what really happened on my poultry farm. It is a very long, painstaking, slow story, but you'll be able to understand, and it will also help you to be able to prevent such cases from reoccurring on your poultry farm. It is around 30 minutes long, but it will be able to help you be opened. Just don't do your investment and yet you don't know what is really going on the ground. Something very weird happened, and that very bad thing that happened on a poultry farm is known as theft. Theft on a poultry farm. And I will give you measures of how you can be able to control these. So I will tell you the story. So these are our chicken that are growing properly. Very, very good. So maybe you are outside the country and you have invested a lot of your money in a project like this poultry farm. So maybe when you come back from abroad, you want to see your project blooming and you want to reap some benefit out of it, out of your hard work that you have been experiencing while you are abroad. So you want to make some money out of this venture. But there are a lot of challenges for you to set up such a poultry farm because of a lot of mistrust and a lot of things that can happen in the real world. So you have kept your chicken like this. All your chicken, you can see, you have invested your millions so that you can be able to get something out of this venture. But then something very weird happens. You have done everything that is needed. You have invested every dollar that you have so that maybe when you come back into the country, you can be able to get something out of this venture. But you encounter theft. You are able to buy medicine for your chicken. You are able to buy feeds for your chicken. But the biggest problem that you are encountering is theft. And how can you be able to curb this problem? And how did it happen on my poultry farm? And how was I able to prevent it, and yet I never prevented that from happening on my poultry farm? What measures should I take next time when I want to prevent such case from reoccurring on my poultry farm? So, on my poultry farm, I think around April over there, I encountered a very big mystery. A very, very big mystery. Why am I saying this? During that time, I had employed some staff on my poultry farm. And the staff that I had employed on my poultry farm, they were these very conniving young men. What I was trying to do, you can see, this is the trench that we dug over here so that we can be able to prevent flooding on a poultry farm, so that the water can't get into the poultry farm. So I had employed these two young men around the ages of 20 to 21, I wanted to empower them so that they can get something out of this venture. So after I had employed them, I wanted them to be able to learn through the process. So as even in the long run, since they are still very young, they can also get the knowledge and go to start their own poultry farm. But the biggest problem arose when these young men started becoming very greedy. You know, greediness can lead to innovation, and also greediness can lead to destruction. And why am I saying this? So these young men really wanted money so fast. So what really happened, this theft that occurred on our poultry farm was not theft that occurred from outside. You see, not from the outside people coming into the poultry farm to steal the birds. But what really happened is this kind of theft, or can I say it's theft? Yes, it's not robbery, it's theft that occurred on my poultry farm was an inside job. I think you have ever watched that movie, An Inside Job, Inside Man, something like that. That is where things really happened. I want to tell you, to break it down slowly by slowly so that you can understand what really happened. So I had these two young men at the ages of 20 to 21 years who are helping me to feed and water the chicken on my poultry farm. So these young men were staying on this poultry farm. We have a farmhouse over there. They were staying in that farmhouse. So these two young men, they ended up getting very greedy. What am I meaning when I'm saying that these young men ended up getting very greedy? These young men wanted to make money very fast. They wanted to become rich very fast so that they can be able to buy themselves high-end iPhones or high-end smartphones. You see? So what these two young men did, they hatched a plan. And how did they come up with this plan? So these young men, we had entrusted them with the farm. Since we knew these young men, we want them to groom them so that they can be able to learn something out of this venture, so that they can be able to set up their own poultry farm, to empower them in a way, so that they can be able to learn something and be able to start their own poultry farm later in life, since they are still very young in ages. So what these young men did, they hatched a plan of how they can make money out of my birds. You see? So what these guys did, they ended up influencing themselves and interacting with the locals of this area, whereby we have purchased this land, whereby we have set up this project. You see? So these guys ended up interacting with these guys and making up their own ways of how they can make money. And how did they hatch this plan? I will share to you some screenshot of the conversation that these guys were having. If you can understand Swahili, it will be better for you. So these guys, what they did, they usually sold our birds, they usually sold our feeds, and even they had the guts to sell our medication. So whenever you buy some medication, maybe some multivitamins so that they can improve the health for the chicken, maybe you have gone into the field and you have searched for the organic product for the supplement, for the medicine, and it is not available, then you buy the other chemical drug, then you give it to your chicken. These guys were taking those drugs and selling them off to the locals. And how does this happen? These local chicken don't need those drugs so that they can be able to survive. What was the real essence of this guy trying to sell that multivitamin or that medicine to the local people? Why were they selling these medications to those people? So after we realized that, it just happened and we realized, I want to tell you what made us realize. So since these chicken were a lot, we weren't able to be counting them like on daily basis. So we were counting them maybe like after 1 week or so after 2 weeks. So there was this one young man, I think maybe in one of the videos he showed up, he was very conniving. So what he did, when these chicken were growing up, we gave him proper instructions that when these chicken are growing up, make sure in case of any mortality, you take record of those chicken that are dead, so that you can be able to keep records of the number of chicken that you are remaining with. Okay, so the boy did that. Okay, so the boy arrived at our farm around 28th January. I want to tell you how the things went. So he arrived at our farm at around 28th January. Then he started the work immediately. Then he went on the work, continuing with the duties of the farm. Little did I know, the guy had his own plan. So what this young man did, he came up with this plan after interacting with the locals. He ended up finding out about one guy who wanted to buy chicken. A local who wanted to buy chicken. So after he ended up finding this one guy who wanted to purchase chicken, this one guy ended up making a deal with them. So what this young man was doing, he was taking this chicken from our farm. Okay, you can see them. When he was still brooding them, when they were still young, like 3 to 4 weeks of age, since he was now brooding them even at night. So we were letting him brood them, even sit with them, and having the key for the brooding place even at night. So what this guy was doing, when he usually came in the evening to look at those chickens that are young, he had hatched a plan. And imagine, this guy was only here like for 11 days, and he had already interacted with the locals, and he really knew very well with the locals. So after he had found this one customer of his, so from 11th February, he had started selling the chicks to this person at night. And why was he selling the chicks to this person at night? Because he was selling the chicks to that person at night at half price. So for example, for 1 month old chick, it's around 250 to 300 Kenyan shillings. And what this guy was doing, he was selling the same chicken to this local at around 130 to 150 Kenyan shillings. Look how that deal is very sweet. So that was how he was able to exchange money and was able to make a lot of money out of this venture. Out of our hard work, our hard sweat, this young man was able to make a lot of money. According to our transactions, I will post the video of how they were talking. If you understand Swahili, you'll be able to know what I'm talking about. Because what really happened really mesmerized us, because we had never seen anything like that. So when it was 11th Feb, he was able to sell around 20 chicks at around 150. So that was around 3,000 Kenyan shillings. So he wanted to sell those chicks to that person so that he can get just money. And the funny thing is that we were paying these guys on time, and also we were giving them food. It's not that we are not giving them food, we were giving them food and we were able to pay them on time. So after you have paid them on time and giving them food, they were still able to steal from us. Because we entrusted them, we wanted them to be able to brood the chicken properly, because we weren't at the farm at night, or maybe during deliveries. At sometimes we usually do deliveries to far off places. Maybe we are doing deliveries to Nairobi, which is like 500 kilometers away, and we have left them at the farm. So we can't lock the house for them not to be able to feed the chicken. So we have to leave them with the keys so that they can be able to manage the farm properly and feed the chicken and water the chicken. So that was our big mistake, because what we did, we needed to install CCTV or needed to put here a manager who can be able to control those people and have contract signs so that they can be able to know that in case any chicken disappears, it can result to this, or this can be the consequences. So these guys ended up stealing a lot of chicken from our poultry farm. So as days went by, they kept on stealing. They ended up stealing medication, they ended up stealing the feeds, and you know how the feeds are very expensive nowadays. So they ended up stealing chicken and ended up stealing the feeds, ended up stealing the medication. You see? So as the chicken kept on growing, they continued doing business with other people in the locality. So that was a very conniving move, because they were selling to them this chicken at half price. You see, if you are able just to sell to you something at half price, and what they were doing, Since they just know at any time that maybe we have gone to do our deliveries, then these guys will come and then they will be able to sell to them those chicken. We ended up finding out that in the end, these guys had sold over 114 chicken. I just wish I could take the video of the day that we recovered the chicken. So we ended up finding out that these guys had sold over 114 chicken. So how did we come to find out that these guys were stealing from us? That is the big question. How did we come to find it out that these guys were the thieves? They were stealing the chicken from our poultry farm. So that came to happened when one day, one night, I have a partner that we do business with, was sleeping on their poultry farm on that day. So what really happened, that guy, there were two boys. So there was this other boy who was around 2021, had taken the chicken and he was delivering to the person, the customer, at around 9 p.m. dark in the night. You know, we are on the equator, so 9 p.m. is very dark, and this place is a village place. There is no electricity, so meaning at around that time it is very, very dark, and it was raining. So when it's raining, that means that even if something makes noise, the other person who is sleeping in the next house won't hear you because he's being distracted by the sound of the rain drops on the iron sheet. So that was the biggest problem. So these young men ended up trying to hold two chicken so that they can be able to deliver to that person. Finally, they know that that was their last day. Here in Africa, we usually say in Swahili that siku za mwizi ni 40. So what really happened? So this guy, when he was trying to go with that chicken, those two chicken, he slipped and fell. So when he slipped and fell, that chicken squawked. So when the chicken squeaked and tried to remove that sound, the person that was sleeping in that house nearby heard and wondered why was that chicken squeaking around that time around 9 p.m. So when he came outside, it was around 9 to 10. So when he came outside, he found some footsteps. And the funny thing is that that boy who had stolen that chicken was able to run. Like, I think the gate is on the, let me go and show you so that you can be able to understand what I'm talking about. That person was able to run within 10 seconds. I think if this person can run this fast, he should be able to be crowned the next Usain Bolt, because that person was able to run from that gate all the way. Let me show you. All the way up to the top over there. Up to the top over there. So that he can be able to plug himself into the blanket and pretend that he is asleep. Imagine that, if you have workers like that. So we never realized that. But later when we walked around the village trying to do our inquiries, we ended up finding out that some chicken were moving out. And the funny thing is that when you're living in a local community, most of these people usually want to protect their own. So they won't just come and tell you that your chicken are being stolen. Even if they know that their chicken are being stolen, you'll have to inquire first so that you can be able to know that your chicken are being stolen. So after we inquired, we found out that there were more than that one customer that the chicken were being sold to. You see? So you just end up thinking that is only one customer that the chicken were being sold to. But after you have done your inquiries, you end up finding out that there were a lot of people who are buying the chicken. So if you are not keen, you may not know that your chicken are being stolen. So after we found out that the chicken were being stolen on our poultry farm by these two young men, we did some questioning to them, because these young men were very conniving. They won't tell you the truth. we wanted to take them to jail so that they can be able to pay for what they did. But as we looked back at their background, we saw that that was not a good move for us. So we decided to fire them. So after we have fired them, we decided to send them back home to their mothers so they can be able to deal with that problem on their own. Because here in Africa, if you are a thief, something bad really happens to you. And I don't want to discuss that in video. And we never wanted that to happen on us, so we just decided to fire them and let them go. Because you may end up thinking that thieves are coming from the outside, but the real issue is that the thieves are with you. Wanasema in Swahili, they usually say kikulacho kinguoni mwako, meaning something that is biting you is within, it is in your clothes. So that is what I mean. So we ended up firing them. So you may end up thinking that you need to, even we said we needed to employ like 2 Maasais or 4 Maasais so that they can be able to guard the farm. Little do we know that the people who are stealing from us were our own. So that was the story. Because that young man, when he ran and went back and slept, he said that maybe the people who are stealing are from outside and we really need to catch them. And the funny thing is that, so we went around that day, the following day, to spread word in the village so that these people can know that our chicken are being stolen, so that they can return the chicken. The funny thing, I told you there's this one boy. He's 21 years and I think he will develop to become a very bad man or maybe a criminal. So this young man ended up, we know we spreaded word in the village. We are saying if anybody is found with those chicken, we'll end up paying a fine of 50,000 Kenya shillings. That's like $500. So we ended up putting that ultimatum. Okay? So when we put out that ultimatum, these guys, what they did, they went very early in the morning. They opened, because we are still trusting them, we think they are not the ones that are stealing the chicken. They opened the chicken coop, then they removed 5 chicken outside. So why did they remove the 5 chicken outside? They removed the 5 chicken outside so that they can make it look like, as we spread word in the village, people decided to return those chicken that were stolen. They were saying, like, for example, the chicken that we had that squeaked. Because when the chicken squeaked, they gave that person the buyer, and the buyer went, and the person, the boy who was giving the chicken, ran back and pretended to be asleep. So they removed the 5 chicken the next day and pretended that those chicken have been returned. So you end up thinking that the chicken were returned to confuse us. I told you this guy was very conniving, to confuse us, to make us think that this chicken were returned. But the chicken were never returned. The guy had just made a plot to try and fool us. He removed all the chicken, around 5 chicken, to make us think that the chicken had been returned. And the guy was just making it look very, very, very conniving way, man. How can you do that? A person of 20 years old. So after that, then after we have done our research, that is when we ended up finding out that this guy was the one that was selling the chicken to the locality. You see that? And can you remember, this guy, we had entrusted him with this recording of the dead chicken on a poultry farm. Okay? So when you record the deaths on a poultry farm, there was a book. So what this guy did, he went and destroyed the book. So when you destroy the book, for us, we don't get the real number of chicken that had died on that poultry farm. So you end up having a vague number. So this guy can end up guessing. So he destroyed the evidence. So even if he sells some chicken on your poultry farm, you won't be able to notice that some chicken have been sold, because he can say that the chicken died and that book got misplaced. You see how that person is very conniving? So he was able to sell chicken, and we were able to recover around 39 chicken. This age of this chicken. He was selling this chicken at, I can't say that, man. The chicken was like this, almost this size. It was sold from 11th Feb. We have some small chicks on top. He even sold those small chicks, but because they were in thousands, we never noticed easily. So he was able to sell this chicken at half price, even lower than half price, and even give them out on debt. How can you give chicken out on debt? so that he was being promised that he will be given some of a smartphone. That was the biggest thing. So we ended up finding out that, and we came up with great measures so that we can prevent that from reoccurring on our poultry farm. Difficult times call for difficult measures. So this guy, what he was doing, he was instructing those people that we found with the chicken. Before we really found them, we really found out that they really had chicken. He was instructing them that what they should do, they should just slaughter the chicken. Just imagine, slaughter the chicken and bury the evidence in the maize. Imagine to slaughter the chicken and bury the evidence in the maize, so that we cannot be able to trace the evidence. Imagine you slaughtering like 39 chicken, big chicken like this. How will you be able to finish those chicken? So that was what the motive of that boy. Slaughter all those 39 chicken. Imagine slaughtering 39 chicken so that they cannot be able to get you. So you see how that boy was very heartless. So make sure you employ people who are heartful. Because we ended up finding out how we can do that, and we ended up saying if a person reports to your poultry farm, they should give you the ID and they should sign a contract that has clauses. In case a chicken dies, they should give a report. In case we come into the poultry house and do the counting of the chicken and we end up finding out that a chicken is lost, we have a penalty that the clause is in the contract that is signed. So meaning, in any case that thing arises on a poultry farm, that contract that is signed will be able to capture him and won't be able to disappear. So we realized that that was the only best way of how you can be able to prevent such cases. And also, there are some other very conniving ways these guys can do. They can try and bring outside people onto the poultry farm so that they can be able to do that thing at night and pretend that maybe the thugs entered into the poultry farm and steal from the poultry farm. But we also realized that, and we said that we will provide a landline phone in the office for those people. If they want to communicate with people at home, they will be using that landline phone. Meaning they won't be using their personal phones of the poultry farm. They can only pick their landline phones when they are outside the compound of the poultry farm. Because if they are in the poultry farm, they can say, Mdosi ametoka. What am I meaning when I'm saying Mdosi ametoka? That means that the owner of the poultry farm is out and now we can make the deal of selling the poultry. So we made up that thing to be very clear so that these people cannot repeat that thing from reoccurring. Yes, you can do the fencing of your poultry farm and also you can do the installation of CCTVs on your poultry farm. But let me tell you something. You can't go somewhere to steal and yet you don't know the architecture of that place. It never happens. Because what I usually say, a person who steals from you is a person that knows you. A person just can't come from the blues because I can't go into a house and go there to steal. I don't know what that person does. You can't do that. Because if something like that happens, meaning the person has been told by somewhere how the things are. And that is what we realized later on. And we have tried to rectify that. You can also do the installation of the CCTVs, do the installation of a wall, because our budget currently is very low. So we want to put a wall all around the poultry house and around the poultry farm so that we can be able to prevent such cases from reoccurring. And also the community around you, that is the biggest hindrance of the character that they have. Maybe if their character is not good, they can also be really influence the people that are working for you to be able to get things cheaply and be able to steal some things out of you. So we ended up making such clauses and we were able to solve that problem. I will be sharing those slides over here so that you can be able, if you understand Swahili, then you'll be able to understand some of the things that I'm talking about, because that thing really never went as I really wanted it to go. But we will wake up, we will come out stronger, because what we have realized is that things in this world happen and everything, experience is the best teacher, but experience is a very expensive teacher. So that is really what happened on our poultry farm, and it's so sad. So guys, if you really want to support the channel, you can click the join button. It has been a very long video. I've never shot a video of like 30 minutes, but this is it's like a vlog of those YouTuber travelers. But guys, thank you for staying by, and I wish you all the best. If you have ever experienced such a case, please comment down below.